Shalom, and welcome to the Parak of the Week. This week we are continuing our study of Chapter 2 with the 8th teaching and the final teaching of Rabbi Hillel, who used to say, the more flesh, the more worms, the more possessions, the more worry, the more women, the more magic, the more female servants, the more lewdness, the more male servants, the more theft. The more Torah, the more life, the more study, the more wisdom, the more counsel, the more understanding, the more tzedakah, the more peace. One who acquires a good name acquired something for themselves. One who acquired for themselves words of Torah acquires for themselves the life of the world to come. Wow, this is a long and complicated text, and some of it is a bit offensive to our contemporary sensibilities. The more flesh, the more worms. This is traditionally understood as a warning against gluttony, that we should eat good food in moderation. The more possessions, the more worry. Okay, I can get on board with this one. We spend half of our lives acquiring stuff and the other half trying to figure out how to get rid of it. It's been a great COVID project for many of us, organizing and decluttering. Can we take with us moving forward the lesson that we really don't need most of the things that we think we need, and that we might even be happier with less? The more women, the more magic. Hillel is speaking to a polygamous community, and he may be suggesting that it's better not to have more than one wife so as not to create rivalry, which might encourage women to seek magical means to endear their husbands to themselves. My translation is a bit free, more literally, the more wives, the more witchcraft. But I've chosen to reframe it in a positive fashion to express the magic of women and of women being together. The more female servants, the more lewdness. Again, such a negative perspective on female nature. Female servants are easily taken advantage of. They're easy prey and rarely have recourse. Instead of blaming the women in this instance, how about the more female servants, the more vigilance required to protect their dignity and well-being? The men don't escape either. The more male servants, the more theft. We are all subject to temptation, and those in the servant class may be exposed to lifestyles that create envy and opportunities to steal. How about the more male servants, the more important it is to provide a dignified living wage? The second half of the teaching moves on to more positive perspectives, to antidotes to lives of excess. The more Torah, the more life. We call the Torah Eitz Chaim, a tree of life. The more we can live according to the teachings of our tradition, the deeper our lives will be, the more meaning and the greater sense of purpose we will enjoy. I think about that beautiful vision of Tevye. If I were a rich man, I'd sit and discuss the holy books with the learned men 7 hours every day. That would be the sweetest thing of all. The more Torah, the more holiness, the more sweetness. The more study, the more wisdom. We can't acquire wisdom all at once. We need to be in a constant process of learning. There are no shortcuts in the pursuit of wisdom. The more counsel, the more understanding. Wisdom is expressed in knowing what we don't know and when we need to ask for advice and counsel. If we consult others whose opinions we respect, we will certainly hear other points of view and gain understanding. On the other hand, sometimes we reach the point of over-researching and the time comes to take action. It's a delicate balance between knowing when to take counsel and when to move forward. The more staka, the more peace. Staka is often erroneously translated as charity, but it is based on the root tzedek, which means justice. No justice, no peace. We resonate with that principle even today. There can be no peace in society when there is a huge social inequity. Who acquires a good name acquires something for themselves. Ultimately, our good name is all that we have in this world, and it is non-transferable. When we are gone, our good name is all that remains, and it is our legacy to future generations. Who acquires for themselves words of Torah acquires for themselves the life of the world to come. By Hillel's time, Judaism had developed a concept of an afterlife as the means to reconcile how it is that the righteous suffer and the evil flourish. This is the final teaching of Hillel in this series, and next week we will move on to the teachings of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Shavua Tov.